From Pembrokeshire we go to border country, 4 miles from the market town of Monmouth. Overlooking the undulating farmland of the Welsh Marches is a most noble residence. This is one of the finest unspoilt mansion houses in Wales. Arrive here and you're instantly transported back to the 17th century. Welcome to Treowen. Now, this Grade 1 listed building was apparently a bit of a burden to the family who inherited it, and at the time they weren't sure whether to keep it or not. But I think they're glad they did. In 1954, the Wheelock family acquired Treowen for £25,000. Maintaining such a large, ancient property is an expensive business riddled with regulatory constraints. But the Wheelocks have managed to make owning such a property work out very well for them indeed. Thank you very much for letting us film around the house. How did it get to be in your family?
Well, I suppose my granddad, who was a very successful stockbroker, made himself 2 fortunes actually, because he lost one in the Great Crash, decided that he should set his youngest son up in the style to which he wished him to become accustomed, I suppose.
I wish my dad would do that for me.
So we moved here, when was it?
1954,
yes.
December.
So you were 8 and you were 6. You must have thought that you died and gone to heaven.
Yep, yeah. I think I climbed every tree on 150 acres of woodland and discovered hiding holes all around the house and dug all around the garden looking for secret tunnels.
Yes.
It's all very well having a fantasy about living in a house like this, but there must have been a point when, you had to take it on and be responsible for it.
Richard, my father, decided eventually that the best thing to do was to give it to us. That got rid of the worries for him, put them onto us. I mean, we didn't really want it because we both got other jobs, and we tried to persuade him to sell the place, but he wouldn't. He said, my father bought it for me and I'm giving it to you.
But I can't believe what I'm hearing. You got given this house and your reaction was, oh no.
Actually at that point, Richard had already drawn up some plans for some necessary repairs, which I think were going to cost about £70,000 from recollection. I lost my job as an accountant, and I thought, do I get another well-paid job and pour my salary into maintaining this place, because by that time we'd spent the £70,000 on repairs and it didn't seem to have made much of a mark on us at all.
No.
Or shall I get the house to earn its living? So I thought, well, I've been telling other people how to run their businesses for the last 7 or 8 years. Why don't I put it into practice myself? And holiday letting seemed like the thing. I mean, people would come here and they enjoyed coming even in the depths of winter.
Treowen is available for hire for all manner of occasions. Since the deregulation of wedding venues in the mid-1990s, the exceptional surroundings have made the house very popular with people looking to tie the knot in a memorable way.
A classical frontispiece of distressing crudity and an armorial shield flanked by a positively barbaric terms. Strong stuff, according to John Newman. If we look around the side of the porch, we see even more problems. Look how the string courses don't match those of the main house, and the porch seems to crash into these stone mullioned windows. Some alterations here have been far more successful though. This is a perfect example of the medieval tradition of separating the great hall from the pantry and buttery where all the noise went on by this lovely oak screen. Now, there's a lovely story behind this screen. It was removed from the house in the 1890s by the Herbert family, and as recent as 2001 it was bought by the present owners and put back in its rightful position. Treowen's most impressive feature is the main staircase. It's the earliest example of an open well stairs anywhere in the country. They are over 5 feet wide and rise 4 stories throughout the house.
With all the history here and the estate's fantastic setting, Owen was always going to have an immense pull on the Wheelock family, and that shows no sign of waning. John and Richard's sister has also managed to remain here by converting one of the farm buildings into her home.
There was no question of the house ever being left to the girls, so it was never my headache. And it just happened to work out that neither of my 2 brothers wanted to live in the house, though I suppose they could possibly have afforded to. And I would have liked to live in the house, but I couldn't afford to on a district nurse's income, and that was that. I've always liked looking at the house. It did feel very uncomfortable when I first moved out. It felt very strange that there were people staying in the house I'd been brought up in, and I actually preferred not to look at it for a bit. Just the lump at the end of the garden, I'm not taking any notice of it. While still tending to call it home and calling the place where I live now the new house for years afterwards.
So John, tell me a little bit about the history of Treowen.
Well, there's been a house here for a very long time called Treowen. The present building was built about 1620 by William Jones. He'd inherited a fairly large inheritance from an uncle of his, Philip Jones, who was in business in London. I suppose he wanted to build a house which reflected his newfound wealth.
And so, where did the family actually come from?
Well, they'd been here for a very long time. They were originally an English family, but they'd obviously gone native because they'd gone to the Welsh style of names of somebody ap somebody. But obviously they decided this was not quite the thing, and so William Jones's grandfather, in fact, had been the first in the family to go back to using an English surname again. But clearly they decided this was something of a mistake. They chose the wrong surname, Jones, and so in the 19th century they changed their name to Herbert to be a little more distinguished.
This is this intriguing priest hole then?
Yes, it was my brother Dick who was clever enough to work out that there was a space here which we couldn't get into at all, and we cut this trapdoor out of what is obviously a modern floor. I mean, obviously they were a very Catholic family that lived here, and there's plenty of stories about them celebrating Mass here, so it's likely that they would need somewhere to hide. Well, I think it was more, in fact, they needed to hide the chalice and the vestments rather than the priest himself. And certainly when we cleaned it out, we did find a woodcut of Mary Magdalene in amongst several inches of dust in the bottom of this hole.
So if your dad was looking down on what you'd done, and he could see that you'd very cleverly managed to keep the house as it is, managed to fill it still with families and happy occasions, and keep it in your family, do you think he'd be pleased?
I think so, yes.
Yes, I'm thinking he'd certainly be very pleased that we kept it. It's been hugely successful. I mean, I'm very glad we did it. I love the house dearly, and it's wonderful that, you know, the whole family can come back here whenever they want to. We came back for Christmas. 50th anniversary of being here. And what did we have? 38 people sat down for Christmas lunch, I think.
Yes, on our own venison.
On our own venison. A team of 3 people carving haunches of venison.
And who did the washing up?
That we have a commercial dishwasher, I have to say.